everyone, and welcome to the Laudato Si Movement podcast. My name is Jonathan Braden with Laudato Si Movement, and today we have a special guest as always, but not as always. We have a special guest from the Laudato Si Movement Board of Directors. Analisa Ramsahai is joining us, as you can see. Welcome, Analisa. Thanks for joining.
Hi, Jonathan. Thank you for inviting me to be
Of
part of this lovely program.
Of course, pleasure's all ours. Annalisa is, as I said, on the Laudato Si Movement Board of Directors. She's in Trinidad and Tobago, and she's also the Regional Program Coordinator for the Franciscan Institute for Personal and Family Development, which is a ministry of the Sisters of the Sorrowful Mother. Excuse me. Annalisa, thank you again. How is everything in Trinidad and Tobago?
Well, today is beautiful and sunny. I would love to go to the beach. Possibly I can do that after work. But
Yeah.
yes, it's an island, and we are located just off Venezuela, if you're taking a bit from a geographic perspective. And I'm happy to say that we are part of the Laudato Si movement and have been for some years now.
Of course, yes. You as well, and then also the Franciscan Institute, of course, has an organization and have been active with the different campaigns. And we have Laudato Si Week coming up, which we'll get into later on in the conversation. But first, just to back up, how did you kind of individually, how did you get involved in your work now at the Franciscan Institute, and then also with Laudato Si Movement? It's not like you just joined the board or just got involved in this work yesterday. It's been a process as well.
That's a great question. Thinking about it, and I hope that you could imagine it with me as I share with you my journey and my experience. I started off as a volunteer with the Franciscan Institute, and they're volunteering my skills when it comes to environment work. And we started off doing a beach cleanup, right? And it was a prayer service, a sunrise prayer service. So we are there with some religious congregations and school students, and we're looking at the sunrise at the beach, all in silence, because we're giving thanks and praise to God for seeing this beautiful moment, right?
Hmm.
Then through that experience, we really through that experience, we really hope that persons can feel a sense of either contrition or a sense of gratitude through in that moment, and inspire them in some way to take some sort of climate action to care for God's creation He's giving us. So there, right there in that spot, we did a cleanup. So we picked up garbage. So it could be styrofoam boxes, plastic bottles, and so on. And we picked up garbage in that level of silence, right? And then we realized, right, how much pollution there was in that one little area. And it just didn't reach there by a bird or a tree or something. It reached there through some human intervention, I would say, right? And we reflected on the harm that we're causing on God's creation, right? Because everything is connected, so it has an impact. I guess through that experience and that one volunteer experience, it's led to a greater impact of saying, oh, sister, I will come and join you and volunteer more. So this is with the Sisters of the Sorrowful Mother, because the Franciscan Institute is a ministry of the Sisters of the Sorrowful Mother. So, Jonathan, and to all our listeners and viewers, after this was an inspiring moment for me and a conversion moment for me as well, because I didn't realize the impact and the personal impact it had on me, because I wanted to do more. What can I do more to help creation? So this is me. I love to run. I love to do long distance running at then, because it was post COVID, about 2018, and I had a running group. So I said, you know what? Let's do a run and pick up garbage while we're running at the same
Hmm.
time, right? And it's
This
something
is this
called
is right
plugging.
around. Oh, nice. This is right around the time of the sunrise, or right after?
right
Just
after,
right
right
after. Okay.
after, just
Okay. Keep going.
about
Sorry.
a few months after the sunrise
Okay.
did this, right?
Hmm.
So I'm sharing on my the personal impact and conversion it had
Yeah.
on me to take a sense of community action after,
Hmm.
right? With just a personal hobby and things I like to do, which is running and really basking in the ambience of the beautiful road running that we usually take. So when we realized while we were running along the road, we would see plastic bottles, plastic bags, a lot of litter along the roadside. So our running team, we said, okay, let's come together. Let's have a run and pick up garbage. So we're running a 5K. We have a garbage bag in our hands. And I invited the sisters to come and join us. And two of them came with their habits, right?
Oh, really? To run
To
and everything.
run.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. So you see these two sisters, and they're running with a garbage bag, and they're picking up garbage with us, and we're in our little shorts and running clothes. So we were amazed. We were like, okay, we didn't realize that it would have that sort of integration with the secular world and the religious world. So then we realized, okay, we can make a difference. So through that plugging events, which is a run and pick up garbage,
Hmm. Hmm.
I was inspired to continue volunteering with the Franciscan Institute. And then our director, Sister Julie Marie Peters, who you may have met in previous Laudato Si movement programs, right? She invited me to help take part in a season of creation activity. And I said, Sister, what is that? So she said, okay. She sent me the information through the Sowing Hope for the Planet at that time.
Hmm.
And Sowing Hope for the Planet had the information about how can you join and become a member of the Global Catholic Climate Movement at that time. That was in 2008. That is the former name of the Laudato Si movement. And we actually did a lot more events after, and we used our creativity. So it was a Know Your Country tour and cleanup. So we went to boats and we did an evening prayer service. And in that boat, just before we went on,
Oh,
we did
wow.
a cleanup along the area and we were looking at birds coming in, the beautiful scarlet ibis. And it was just surreal, right? So we were always doing activities that can incorporate our hobbies
Hmm. Hmm.
and our sense of learning to educate other in a creative way of Laudato Si, because our goal is always spreading the message of Laudato Si. How can we care for our common home? And also, how can we engage others and inspire others, especially the Catholic community, to have a sense of ecological conversion and
Hmm.
also to take climate action? And you can
Hmm.
see it fit very well to the mission of the Laudato Si movement.
Hmm.
And this is not knowing that this was the movement's mission before, right? So the values of the Franciscan Institute, this is the start from all the activities that was taking place at that time, it fit very well with the movement's missions and goals. So we were inspired to become a member of the Global Catholic Feminist Movement, now the Laudato Si movement, right? And that is when we became a member. And then we did this huge climate march, and it was with a children's home
Oh,
and the
nice. Okay.
archbishop at the time. And the theme for Season of Creation then was walking together. And we got highlighted with the movement at that time through our activity. And we saw the need to continue journeying with the younger generation because they are our future leaders and they are inheriting this planet that we're all called to care for. So their voice are very important at this time,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And that is really through those experiences, it really converted me to continue doing work related along the line of Laudato Si movement.
Yeah.
And one more important thing I forgot, right? I partook in the Panama World Youth Day in Panama, and I was part of a Laudato Si volunteer with the Laudato Si movement. So in that group, there were Franciscan friars, as well as the secretariats and volunteers of the Laudato Si movement at that time. And we were there in Panama singing Laudato Si, and we were there doing a Laudato Si village and trying to encourage persons to sign the petition and become members of the Laudato Si movement. And also, we launched Laudato Si Generation, which is a youth ministry of the Laudato Si movement, right? And that is really the part of a very inspiring moment that allowed me to connect and stay and ground myself with the Laudato Si movement and become much more involved in the sense of saying, okay, I can help be part of a working group with the Laudato Si generation, or I can help with being part of the steering committee then with the Laudato
Oh,
Si
okay. So that
movement.
got you further
Mhm.
involved in it. Yeah, yeah. Hmm.
Yes, yes.
Backing up just a second. Well, a few years, I guess, actually. So 2018 is when you went to the Sunrise event, I guess we'll call it. Why did you go to that though? What made you want to go to that? What was your kind of faith background, or what was it before then that even, you get to this event and then it all kind of goes from there? That's maybe the beginning, but what about before the beginning? What brought you to that event?
That's a great question. It's really a great question. And I think that the audience might be wondering, okay, that same question you just asked. So, so I actually was in the convent at that time.
Oh, really? Okay.
Um, in my formation, I was at the novitiate of a different congregation called the St. Joseph of Cluny Sisters. And I was a postulant at the time. And Sister Julie, she was doing a program with us and she was encouraging us to read Laudato Si, the encyclical letter Laudato Si. And I was like, Sister, what is all that about? Right? So I have a background, academics, as well as work experience in environment work, environment compliance, right? And I knew from a secular perspective what it is like to help care for the environment. But I didn't know that the Catholics at that time had a document on social teachings, which includes care for our common home, but it was much more integral. It focused on integral ecology, which is how can we work together with the different levels of relationships, starting from relationship with God, our relationship with ourselves, others, including our environment, to make the world a better place, right? And I was intrigued by that document. And I said, Sister, well, we went on a retreat in that area. It's along the beach. And Sister said, well, we could do a little prayer service and do a little cleanup. So Sister said, are you sure? I would love to do that and I would love to help you. So that is how we started that sunrise service. That's the birth of it.
Okay, fantastic. So you grew up Catholic then?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
Yes.
then had obviously you felt called to join, to go on the path of becoming a religious sister, but you still weren't. I mean, like myself and a lot of other people, still weren't quite, um, what's the word, briefed or quite aware of the depth of Catholic social teaching. That care for God's creation is like, an essential core part of Catholic social teaching, which is so interesting. Even though your faith was so profound that you were ready to become a religious sister.
You're right, Jonathan, because I'm thinking about it now that you said it. I grew up, right? I have five other siblings,
Okay.
right? And my mother took us to church every single day going to school.
Oh wow.
And
Every
so
day,
we
daily
knew
mass all the time.
every
Yeah.
day, right? That was our routine. Go to mass, rush and have breakfast just outside the school, and say the rosary, right? So I knew those two concepts basically as a Catholic growing up, going to mass and saying the rosary all the time as a family together, right?
Hmm.
But I didn't realize that the church is much richer in our faith than I knew until I went into the convent. I learned about theology, I learned about the different social documents of the church, and then I learned the document of Laudato Si, which fit well in my personality. So I related a lot with that document. So that is where I gelled my passion with the church's social teaching. But I would say, and I would encourage our viewers and audience if you're interested in learning more about your faith, especially your Catholic faith, there are a lot of reading materials out there, and possibly we were not exposed to it at confirmation class and first communion class. But when you read on the church history, it's a conversion experience by itself. And to see how we have grown over the past 2000 years or so, it's amazing to see our transformation and how we were guided by the Holy Spirit to form this communion and this body of Christ. Because, I always see it as a call, our faith as a call for reconciliation and becoming whole and one again through our encounter with Christ, right? And we are living this resurrection moment at this time because we now came out of Easter. And how can you really recognize the resurrection moment of your life, right? At this present moment, we have this beautiful earth, and we can see the awe and wonder and the glory of God and the goodness that it has given to us. But then we sometimes enter into periods where we really question our faith, and we really question, okay, what is really happening to our coming home? We are seeing wars, we are seeing the impacts of it, from the destruction of, let's say, humanity itself, even to the destruction of the earth. And we are seeing that, I hope that people can see that there is a call for repentance and conversion in some way. And that is where I can relate to Pope Francis' encyclical letter, Laudato Si, and seeing everything that he spoke about. I hope
Hmm.
that made sense.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not
yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I was all ears. Um, and then what? So why did that event have such an effect on you? What was happening? Like, when you sat in silence, watching the sunrise. What was kind of happening to you? And then what happened to you? Internally, spiritually, what happened to you as you kind of kept going along that path? And you were at the time, just to be correct, make sure I'm understanding correct. At the time, you were still on the path to become a religious sister, right?
Right,
Yeah, yeah, okay.
right. At that time, I can speak from my own perspective, that experience. Have you ever seen the sunrise, Jonathan?
Yes, I have actually. Yes.
Right. So imagine that moment you're seeing the sunrise, but this time you're looking over the ocean, right? It's dark, and then you're seeing lights coming up, but you're not seeing the sun, right? And then all of a sudden, you're seeing a little light break through the horizon, and it's a tiny little light.
Mm-hmm.
And then while you're looking at that light, you can hear all around you. You can hear the birds, you can hear the wind, the water crashing, the trees rustling. And then you see this big, bright light, and it's orange, it's different colors, and it's coming up through that horizon. And it's turning from a semicircle to a full circle, and it's going slowly but yet quickly. And in my heart, I'm saying, wow, I can't believe God made us. I cannot believe this is happening. It's so surreal and it's so majestic and marvelous that this is God's creation. And this one little circle that started off as a dot, it's so much life giving. There are so many symbols to it that can relate to life itself. We always relate to God as the sun. We always relate to the sun as the giver of life as well. But when you look at the sun too, in a scientific perspective, it gives so much life on earth. This one little plant here I have on my desk, it cannot survive without the sun. And so we too, because we depend on all of the impacts, or everything is connected, right? All of creation itself, it relies on that sun as well. So I think that all of that was going through my mind, and the thoughts of God creating all of this. I was thinking, you know what? I cannot believe this surreal moment, right? So that was intriguing by myself. Through my experience and the use of the five senses, I try to use that technique. So what can I see? What can I hear? What can I smell at that time? And what can I feel? And that was a little Franciscan type of meditation, I guess, was taught to me at the convent. So it was part of my meditation routine. And that was my experience at that time. And after I came out of the convent at the end of the year, that was in 2017, and I started to work at a company, and it's just it was not feeling the same,
Hmm. Wait,
and I had
back up just
a
one second.
show,
So you had this transformational experience,
right?
and then you decide, I mean, all roads are leading on your path, right? Become religious, but then you decided to leave the convent. How come?
That's a great question. I think there are a lot of I'm still discerning, and discerning what is my vocation. Um, Even though that was 5 years ago, I still live my life very much as if I was in the convent. Strange enough, as I said. So I think I enjoy what I do at the Franciscan Institute, and the sisters. I work with the sisters too, and they are my bosses, and they help me grow in the areas of my liking to link it together with my faith. I hope that answers your question, John.
Yeah. No, it does. Yeah. And keep going. I interrupted you, but
So what maybe left is that I was still discerning my core,
hmm
and I wanted to discern what it is out if I can do it outside of the convent, this same practice.
gotcha.
And if I can, I also believe that I have a lot of gifts that I can offer, and I wanted to take it to grow my gifts. For example, my passion to, yes, I have a work experience in a different field, but I do have a creative passion where I love to do photography and graphic design and video editing and so on. Outside of my work, I love to run and those sorts of things. So I wanted that sense of ability to also grow in that area. So I think that is what drove me to look at my discernment from a different angle.
hmm Yeah, very nice. And still discerning, as you said. Well said. We're all still discerning in a way, I suppose. Very nice. And then here we are. This is now 4 years later, and you're working at the Franciscan Institute. And you all, as like a lot of different organizations around the world, take part annually in the big moments of Laudato Si movement and the big, creation care moments throughout the year. The Vatican, of course, has the Laudato Si week coming up in what are we recording this on May 4th, but so in about a couple weeks, 2.5 weeks. Um, Laudato Si week, May 22nd through the 29th. For those who aren't maybe familiar, do you want to just talk briefly about what is Laudato Si week and how? And we'll just start there. What is Laudato Si week?
Well, Laudato Si Week is a week of celebration where we really commemorate the publication of the encyclical letter Laudato Si, which took place in 2015. And May the 24th is actually the anniversary of the publication of Pope Francis' encyclical letter. And I remember the birth of Laudato Si Week came within around that commemoration. Hence, it is within that time period. So May the 22nd to the 29th. And each year, there are different themes. And this year, the theme for Laudato Si Week for May the 22nd to May the 29th is listening and journeying together. And it is very important because we are in the synod period for the church of listening. And it is also important because May the 24th marks 7th anniversary of the publication of the encyclical letter. And that lucky number 7 also relates to the Laudato Si goals that we have, and we're encouraging persons to partake and register for the Laudato Si Action platform. So it all is connected, as Jonathan shared, and you can be part of this Laudato Si week too. You can connect with the website to get more of the information. It's a very easy step-by-step process to register. And I encourage you to do an event. It may not be a beach cleanup or a sunrise service that I did, but it could be something very simple as praying together with your community or family. It could be something as simple as planting a tree together, something to commemorate your passion and your inspiration to want to care for coming home, right? And you can also connect to the activities. I saw that there are a lovely schedule put out there on the laudatosiweek.org website. From May the 22nd, you would see Pope Francis possibly do a talk or something related to Laudato Si. Then there is one particular day that they're going to mention and do a special presentation for the Laudato Si movie, right? And then there are also other guest speakers during the course of that week where you can tune in, and you can tune in at the Facebook or the YouTube of the Laudato Si movement, or you can even connect to the website of laudatosiweek.org. They have great resources, and we encourage persons to take part locally, because the more voices, the more hands, the more togetherness that we have, we can make a huge impact and a huge difference for the world we also care for, and for each other we care for, especially our future generation who are going to inherit this beautiful or not so beautiful world that we are giving them.
Very well said. LaudatoSiWeek.org. You can find any and all information. Still time to register for more information, find out about activities, learn more about the Laudato Si Action platform, etc. So much going on from May 22nd to May 29th. And I mean, yourself and your organization and a lot of other people and other organizations participate in these big moments, but then also, throughout the year, daily doing things to care for a common home. How do you, just to kind of get back to what we were talking before, the runs you do, or you did, and picking up litter, etc. How do you kind of incorporate caring for our common home, whether it's contemplation or action on a regular basis? How do you do that, Annalisa?
That's a great question, Jonathan. And hopefully, this inspire each of you to also do something in your community or your parish or wherever you're involved with. Now, I work at the Franciscan Institute, as Jonathan shared, right? It is a ministry of the Sisters of the Sorrowful Mother, and the Sisters of the Sorrowful Mother, they are Franciscan nuns, right? So we are based in 3 islands in the Caribbean region, St. Lucia, Trinidad, and Grenada. And being part of the regional program coordinator, I help develop and design programs. And one of our ministry is Laudato Si, or Care for Creation, right? Our mission and our vision too includes reverence for creation. So that's how it's directly related. So, and that's how can we incorporate Laudato Si programs in our daily programs at the Franciscan Institute. So, for example, we have been working with schools and parishes. There are different age groups, and we help sit down and talk to them, and we can also listen to them on what are their understanding of what it means to care for creation. Only when you sit down and listen to them, then you can understand where they're coming from and how you can design an activity for them to become more engaged in taking climate action. For example, in Trinidad and Tobago, people love to sing, right? You have calypso, soca, so on. And if you say, okay, can you design, let's say, a program to say a poem, for example, to say, okay, to express your joy or your concern for the earth, they'll say, Miss, you know what? I like something called a spoken word. So I said, okay, what is a spoken word? It is a mixture of expressing yourself like a drama or skit, but you're speaking in a poetry style, right? So it was amazing because it added life and it added creativity. And I saw that the children were very inspired to share, right? And they have great creativity and a sensitivity to want to care for the environment. So listen to this example, right, Jonathan?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We started at the Franciscan Institute something called a Season of Creation Challenge, right? Now, this season of creation challenge started off with children. Now, this one girl, she was at secondary school. She was about 15 or 16 at that time, a few years ago, when we first started. And she did something called an EnviroFilter project. The EnviroFilter is you plug in filter into the tap water and you're getting cleaner water. So, for example, the children wouldn't have to buy bottled water all the time. So, this way you can reduce your plastic pollution. And this way you can also get cleaner water rather than the unsafe water that they get at school, right? So, with that project that she did as part of the Season of Creation Challenge, 5 years later, she has now gotten a scholarship to attend to university at Princeton. And she took that idea, and we are working at the Franciscan Institute with her to get this installed at especially poor schools in our country, where children get brown water to drink every day. So we can be able to empower the children to work together, and we can be able to empower the community to work together to also have a better impact for the environment and for the health and the school and so on. So
Hmm.
you see the level of empowerment programs that we have put in place at the Institute, right? When it comes to Laudato Si programs, and we see the impact, but it may not be an immediate impact that people expect to see. You fix the world in one day, but it has a long term impact if you stick with it,
Hmm. Hmm. And it all
right?
started with listening to them, to the students, and then it goes from there.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So interesting.
And
It just shows too. Go ahead. Go ahead.
And each
Yeah.
island has its own culture and its own creativity. For example, I can give you an example for St. Lucia. There is this young girl, she did this vetiver project. A vetiver is a type of grass.
Hmm.
And this grass, when it's dried, you can make baskets and weave woven hats. So it's a indigenous technique that indigenous people use to make their woven basket with this type of material, this grass. And she saw the importance of vetiver not only for craft, but also it can be used for health purposes. It can be used for structural purposes too, because the vetiver grass, when you plant it, it prevents erosion because of the roots, it's very long roots. So all of these research that they did, that the child did, it really inspired the child to take it at a different level, to look at it from a holistic level rather than, okay, I'm just saving the environment. They're also helping the community come together and protect them and help them as well have a better lifestyle.
Hmm. And have a
Right?
lasting. Those changes have a lasting effect on the community once they're
Exactly.
grown, etc.
Mhm.
For years and decades, generations. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
How fantastic. A lot of great examples for people to use and a lot of kind of great modeling of ways of going about this work as well. So terrific. LaudatoSiWeek.org. You can find more information about Laudato Si Week, the Vatican-led initiative, Vatican's initiative, Laudato Si Week, of course, May 22nd through May 29th. Analisa, thank you so much for joining the podcast.
You're
Much appreciated.
You're welcome, Jonathan. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy it.